Good morning, welcome to Ag Talking Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things that are on my mind. Not your mind, my mind. But they could be on your mind too if you have an open mind. So I'm going to title this, or have titled this, Regenerative Agriculture. And there's a reason I'm going to talk about regenerative agriculture, because I think there's a lot of people that are taking some steps in the regenerative agriculture or the regenerative farming, or even carbon farming as they call it in some circles. They don't really realize that they are already on the path to this regenerative way of doing things, or carbon capturing way of doing this stuff. So I'm going to start with my own, I guess I could call it a story. My son is coming up because he hears me talking, but he likes to be in here. What are you doing, Nudykins? Yeah, I see you. There you are. All right, so I'm going to talk about my story with what we've done in the past and what is going to happen in the future, and what I have left behind, and the practices that we left behind over the years to go back into the tillage side of things. So, are you going to watch TV downstairs? Because if not, I'm going to shut it off. You want me to turn off? Go get the clicker so I can turn your TV down. The little clicker. You can watch that down there. Anyway, so let's go back to when I was young, like 20. 18, 17, 16 years old. We could even go back to when I was 9. Let's start when I was 9 years old. So when I was 9 years old, my grandfather died. He died December 29th, 1981. Yeah, I see you over here. He died December 29th, 1981. He was 58 years old. He had not quite made it to 59. He was a heavy smoker. Never drank, but he was a heavy smoker. I mean, he'd have a drink here and there, kind of like me that way. He worked in a paper mill on the swing shift, which is very hard on everybody's life that was in that way of doing work. So he worked in the paper mill here locally, and from there, my grandmother and my father were really the farmers on the farm. He was just supplemental income. As my dad said later, that he felt that he worked to get away from the farm, which kind of weird, because when I was a kid, I remember him wanting to do things that he was unable to do, because in 1977 he had a massive heart attack that put him in the intensive care unit for 21 days, and that was the end of his smoking career. So most people after a major heart attack like that, they die within 3 to 4 years, and I guess he pretty well fell into that. So 77, 78. Was it 77 or 78? I think it was 1977. 77, 78, 79, 80, 81. He lived for that 4 years. He died on the steps in the house, and that left my grandmother and my father to figure out what was going on. And in that 4 years of his decline in health to his eventual death, he liked to buy new stuff. He would leave the farm in the stationary wagon. He always drove a car, never drove a truck. And he would go to the dealership and buy stuff. And I know that there were arguments over this stuff. I remember my dad being very upset over a particular 3 pieces of equipment that showed up brand new: a hay rake, a mower, and a brand new all New Holland equipment baler. Okay, so all right, you want to just kind of hang out with me then? That's fine. You can dance around. Where's your combine? Go get your combine. So anyways, you don't want your combine? Go get your combine. No. Okay, don't get your combine. Anyway, so after he died, that left a seriously large amount of work to be done on the farm. And being as we had no-till corn planter, it was a John Deere 7000 Maxi-Merge conservation tillage corn planter. It was quite simple to just skip the tillage side of it and do no-till. So they downsized acreage right away. It was not, we're not going to be farming 600 acres. And in 1981, 600 acres was a fairly large farm, especially in this area. And I believe they were doing about 600 acres. Corn, soybeans, and we had the dairy farm, plus we did hay. No, we're not talking, I'm doing this. So they downsized and went into no-till farming. I remember no-tilling into things that we shouldn't have no-tilled into. We even no-tilled soybeans with the corn planter. We had the soybean seed cups, and it was a 38-inch row corn planter. Shush. So we had to split the rows. So from 38 inches, we had, what, 17 inches between, 17, yeah, something like that, 16 and a half, 16 is 32, so 18 is 36, so 19 inches in between. So that's where we were running. I remember running one way and then turning and going the other way, so it was a checkerboard system. Did not work, but we had some soybeans, and that's what we used to feed the cows. So anyways, with that being said, we kept on with this in corn. We did corn on corn no-till, and it did fairly well. We put cow manure, we did cover crops, rye mostly, and then we would graze the rye and then go ahead and no-till corn into the no-till corn into the cover crop after the cows were done grazing on it, and then he would kill it with, say, I think he would burn it off with like paraquat, gramoxone. Roundup wasn't really a thing. It was available, but it was stupid expensive, and that was before Roundup Ready anything, so it just wasn't something that we did. Soybeans, we had a regular grain drill. It was an 8300 John Deere 12-foot grain drill with a grass seed box on it. And when we planted wheat after soybeans and stuff like that, but that was the extent of our tillage. But I always noticed that not always noticed, as I got older, I noticed that it seemed like where we had the cover crops that it seemed to do better. Fertilized with cow manure over the winter, grazed the rye off before we planted, and it would only ever get yay high. We would no-till through. So after that, for several years of doing that, hey, enough, belly bonger.
No.
That's his belly.
No.
After several years of doing that, I felt that tillage was better, and we grew more soybeans and wheat, and still with the no-till corn. And then we got into this product called, it came out of Hydropress, was a company that mixed fly ash. It's going to hurt. Mixed fly ash with human waste. Are you that strong?
No.
You're not?
No.
Anyway, so we mixed human waste with fly ash. We didn't do it. Hydropress did. It was called Agrorganic, was the company, and we spread tens of thousands of tons of that stuff over the course of probably from 1992, 91, 92 until 1999 and 2000. 1999, we bombed every hay acre that I had with this stuff. I mean, we put tons and tons and tons of this stuff down, and the hay grew like crazy. It was it had enough human waste in it, enough lime in it to bring the pH up to a decent level, and it seemed like whether we put fertilizer, a heavy dose of fertilizer on it or not, it just grew. And over the years, it slowed down. pHs dropped. Organic matter, organic or bioorganisms down in the basement of these roots started to die off because of the pH is dropping due to commercial fertilizers. Yes, commercial fertilizers. Commercial fertilizers are acidic and will kill things off in the soil. But anyways, we can move past this. Go back into corn 2 years ago. After years of no-till soybeans and no-till corn, let's see, we won't go back into 2 years ago. We'll go back into probably 2000 and let's say we go to 2003, 2004. We are not playing with water. 2003, 2004, I decided that chisel plowing and disking was the better way to go, putting a complete blend of commercial fertilizers on, and that was the end of no-tilling. I never felt that growing soybeans no-till seemed to do what we wanted it to do. It just seemed like tilling it was better. So that's what I did. Went into corn and soybeans, tillage, full tillage, fertilizers, potash, whatever. Then we started with diseases in our crops. Not in the corn so much. We had some spotty brown leaf mold or whatever got in the corn, but was nothing you couldn't take care of with a little Bravo and Ritamil, a couple doses of that early on, and it seemed to fix all that stuff up. Soybeans, we ended up with aphids and nematode damage, cyst nematode, had that crap going on. And then at about the time 2015, I was done. Just fed up. It was a dry year. We had 2012 was Hurricane Sandy. 2015, I had just pretty much said, you know what, I'm going all in on hay, all in on hay, and we're done with corn and soybeans. I'm just done with this. Parked the equipment in the shed, and there it has sat for years until 2020. Until 2020. 2020 comes along, and I was like, you know what? I want to grow corn again. I miss growing corn. Price of corn is creeping up. It's in that $7.50 range. I've got compost. I can use compost to boost my organic matter, and I can work that in, make it available to the corn roots right away. It has a lot of microbial activity already in it, beneficial funguses in it already, mycelium, roso, whatever the heck it is. All the stuff that you need to grow corn. So year one, put it on. It was aged compost. It was a 1.5-year-old compost. Dumped it on there at about 3 tons to the acre. Had a phenomenal crop across the board, and I was very happy. Last year, I brought, 40 or 50 loads of this compost home. I put it on the ground. I worked it in again, and had another pretty damn good crop of corn. It looked great, worked great. I was happy. We had some, but we're having runoff in rainstorms. Well, how do you stop runoff in rainstorms? You get a rainstorm, 2 inches of rain all at once, and boom, half the field is down across the road at the bottom, which kind of annoyed me. So after I got my corn off, I decided that I would get some rye seed and spin it on and see how it goes. Well, it worked okay. Didn't seem like it was going to come up, but it did finally come up, and the fields are getting green now. We have a couple 60-degree days, and this boy is terrorizing the place because he thinks that he is hot stuff. Aren't you? What is that? Did that hurt?
Yes.
Looked like it hurt. You had dry skin on your lip. It's going to bleed now. So anyways, it's looking good. The cover crop is looking good. So I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to put... What? What hurts?
I see it.
You hit your toe, didn't you? Thought it was your lip. Anyway, cover crop's looking good. I'm thinking, I'm going to look into what I can do with these cover crops. And about a month ago, I decided, I think what I want to do is go into covering everything with rye after I take it off, corn, soybeans, take it off, cover it with rye, and then in the spring when it gets, a couple feet tall, 3 feet tall, maybe at boot stage, maybe a little after boot stage, I go in with a vertical tillage machine and I just chew it up. 2 passes with that, I'm good. Plant my beans, plant my corn, I'm getting ahead of myself. Spread the compost, chew it up once with the vertical tillage machine, spread the compost, then come back in again with the vertical tillage machine and prepare the seed bed so that I can plant my corn and my soybeans through this mesh of rye that has been incorporated, just chopped, resized and into pieces, it may be that long, and I'll get benefits from whatever was in the... You want a banana? Okay, fine. That's it. Did you eat your noodles?
Yes.
You did. It didn't look like it. There you go. There's my monkey. So anyways, that's what I was thinking of doing. I went out to the Kentucky National Ag Expo or National Farm Machinery Show. Met some people out there that was dying to meet for many years. Andy, the Harmless Farmer, Mike Less I met. I saw Ryan, How Farms Work, Ryan Kister again, and a whole host of fans that have watched this channel and my One Lonely Farmer channel over the years. I think I pissed off the Chrome guy, but I don't care. He wanted me to tell a guy to go buy a very expensive baler when I didn't feel that that was necessary. To bale corn fodder, just go buy the cheapest piece of crap you can buy, run it through for a year, and then sell it, and then do it again next year. It's cheaper in the long run. Anyway, so we did all that, and I'm on my way home, and me and my wife are discussing this thing, and it's like, you know what, we're going to go ahead and we're going to buy it. It's going to be like $95,000 to $100,000 to buy this vertical tillage machine with the seating attachment on it where I can do exactly what I'm saying I'm going to do. So we get about, I don't know, halfway home. No, more than halfway home. About half. 2/3 of the way home, and the motorhome breaks down. Boom! No bang, no crash, nothing. Just the engine goes full red line, and the rev limiter's going rah, 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 rah. Just like that. And I'm like, what the hell happened? So turns out transmission let loose, and I'm upset. I'm just upset. I'm like, all right. So what do? When you're sitting there and you're upset waiting for tow trucks and trying to find a place to go? You pick up your smartphone. My wife is there sitting there watching people sell Louis Vuitton bags online, and I'm there looking for ways to farm more efficiently and produce a decent crop. Doesn't have to be that high-end 250 bushel to the acre crop. It just has to be a profitable crop, one that is moderate inputs, moderate income, high inputs, minimal income. And that's what I've been thinking for the last couple of years. It's like, look, there's got to be a way that I can cut my costs down so that instead of farming, say, 1,000 acres of corn, I could farm 300 acres of corn and get that same profit level that I would with 1,000 acres of corn. So I start looking online, and I'm looking at vertical tillage, and through my vertical tillage searches, I had settled on the Great Plains, and I was going to buy it. I was 100%, I'm buying this machine. This is going to make me money. It's going to cut my chisel plow. It's going to cut 2 passes with a disc, and it's going to cut 1 or 2 passes with a roller harrow, no matter, whatever. That's what it's going to do. I'm going to save $20 an acre in diesel fuel or $15, $16, $18, well, $20, $25, $30 an acre now with the price of fuel. With diesel fuel, if I cut all of this stuff out and I just go with a 1 pass with the vertical tillage machine, cut her to 3 inches and go for broke, and then put on my secret sauce that I'm using to excite the microbial activity in the soil to break down the compost that I'm putting on to feed the crop that I'm growing with just a little bit of potash, if necessary, and a little bit of nitrogen, absolutely a little less nitrogen. So I'll save $20 an acre on diesel fuel, which I can put into that machine, so that's a wash. Over a course of 5 years, 5 times 2, 2 times 5 is 10, there's your $100,000. I get my machine paid for in 5 years, it's worn out at that point, I gotta buy another one, or rebuild the one I've got, but I've saved diesel fuel, wear and tear on tractors, which equals big bucks. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going through this stuff, and then I come across a video, and it's more of a documentary video, and it's a guy by the name of David Brant. And David Brant is an older fellow. He's in his 70s. He was a Vietnam vet, went to Vietnam. When he got back, he started farming, and that was in 1971. So when he got done in 1971 farming, his father died, and his sister made him sell the farm to get her third out of the property, because sometimes sisters are that way. They want their money and they don't care how they get it, and if it negatively impacts the guy that's actually taking care of the property, then they don't care. They just want their money. And I have relatives like that, I'm sure. I know there's a couple of them in particular, which I will not be naming, but that's okay. I think we're prepared. So anyhow, he has to sell his farm, and he did a rent farm, cash rent farm, where he could continue, only it was next door, and I believe that was his grandfather's farm, in which he bought a few years later, which was great. Sounds good. So he's looking for the same thing that I'm looking for today, only I'm in 2022 and he's in 1972. Costs too much money. He's looking into no-till farming. Well, I've already done no-till farming. My issue isn't the no-till farming practice. My issue is taking that compost that I'm getting and making it stay there long enough for the tea to run into the soil. That's my whole premise for working the ground at this point, is getting that compost tea into the soil. So I click on this presentation. He says, I'm a farmer. I've been doing this for years. I'm not really a speaker. And he has honed his speaking skills to the point where he kept me watching for an hour and a half his presentation and how and what he has discovered since 1971 on the different species of plants that can do different things in your soil, which will cut your costs. I'm like, you can cut my costs, buddy, other than fuel. You've got my full attention. So he starts talking about cover crops and what cover crops you can do and what he had discovered over the course of 20 years into this thing. 71 to 91, he was a single species type of cover crop guy. Put rye in after corn, plant your soybeans through the rye, roll that rye before or after, doesn't matter, just do it. Then take the wheat or take the soybeans off, put wheat in, take that wheat off, and then plant a cover crop. So he was planting some different cover crops, hairy vetch or straight hairy vetch to plant corn through, which was his nitrogen fixing. And then somewheres in the 1990s, say 95, 96, 97, something like that, somebody introduced him to daikon radish or tillage radish. And I have looked at tillage radish many times, and I've been like, I can't put tillage radish in a corn and soybean rotation. But if I start growing wheat again, I can do that. So you can get tillage radish in after soybeans, along with a couple of other things like hairy vetch, crimson clover, and things like that. So he was doing all this stuff until somebody introduced him to these radishes, and he got this brilliant idea. I'm going to plant my radishes with my corn planter, and I'm going to plant the corn over top of the tillage radish to great success. Tillage radishes put a taproot down 40, 60 inches. They make a tuber. In this area, planted after, say, soybeans or corn, will only get to be like 8 or 10 inches. But after soybeans, them little bastards go deep, and they will go very deep, 30-inch long tubers, which is exciting to me because my soil is mostly only 18 inches deep anyway. So if I can get a tuber that goes right down to that hard, shaly ground, and then puts roots in through the fissures of that shale to pull nutrients that my grandparents and great-grandparents put on, I could do that. That'd be okay. I like that idea. So I started down this path of what is regenerative agriculture? Will it fit for me? How hard would it be to get to that aggregate stage where the soil is very soft and I can get into... He's doing something. What are you doing down there? You better not be making too big a mess. So I'm down this path, and I'm like, I haven't heard anybody talk about old hay fields. Mostly people, they put in alfalfa. It runs for 4, 5, 6, 7 years maximum. Clover, 2 years maximum. Grass hays like Timothy, 4 or 5 years maximum, and then they tear them up and then plant corn and soybeans and go into that rotation. But I've got grass fields that have been in grass for 20 plus years, some of them even 30 years. So I'm like, wow, I wonder what that soil looks like down deep. Now, last year, I tore up a hay field, a farm that was hay for 15 years. 10, 15 years. It was sorghum before that. Sorghum goes deep and pulls nutrients as well. Sudan, sorghum, sorghum Sudan, whatever you want to call it. This farm that I tore this up on did phenomenal. It was phenomenal. Now, I did put potash, phosphate, nitrogen, sulfur, and my special blend on there. The special blend, at the time that I did it, I didn't realize what that was going to do was take all of that sod that was on there that was this deep and beyond and fire those microbes up and allow them to just eat the ever-loving crap out of that decaying organic matter, which will convert it into organic matter. Biomass is what I should call it. Fire that stuff up to break down the biomass to convert it to organic matter. But now I've got an issue. I wish I never plowed it. What I should have done was just went through with the corn planter, planted it, and round up the grass that was there and allowed the corn to eat that from the top roots and allow that aggregate that was there. Because even though I went with a chisel plow, the soil was incredibly loose for as wet as it was. I was quite shocked as to how loose it was because I just tore up all the aggregation that was down below that sod level, and I fired up the microbes by putting down my secret blend of stuff and grew an incredible crop of corn. So I'm like, all right, so what am I going to do here? I don't have a cover crop on it, but why do I need a cover crop? There's enough residue there that I don't need to put a cover crop because that soil is not going anywhere. It's not going to erode, but I do have bare dirt. So watching David Brant and talking about living roots in the soil, basically those living roots is your solar panel of energy that goes into the soil, which feeds your beneficial fungus and your microbes and your nematodes, all the microbial activity in the soil, and your worms. Now, there was a lot of worms on that farm. I hope I didn't kill them. What I'm going to do this spring is quite simple. I'm going to go through with the compost like I plan on doing anyway. I am going to only go through where the ruts are, where we cut in with the wagons and the combine, and I'm going to just lightly disc the top of those in, and then I'm going to no-till everything else into corn, or into soybeans, not corn, soybeans. So that farm will be recovered there. So everything that was put into corn last year will be soybeans this year, and I will be killing 600 acres of hay to put corn into. I've got lime going down. That is another very important part on this journey to regenerative agriculture, is to get your pHs to a stable point of 6.5, 6.8, 7. And by doing the cover crop system, different plants will do different things to bring fertility and pH balance or a balanced ecosystem below my feet. All right, so that's where I'm at. I'm looking at this. Now I've got a big problem. Where do I find what each individual plant does? I've looked all over the, I've looked all over the internet. I'm like, God, there has got to be a spot here in DuckDuckGo or Google or wherever on the individual plants and their benefits. So now I'm immersing myself in videos, listening podcasts, as I'm driving my hay to the mushroom barn and bringing compost back, driving up to get lime and bringing that back. I'm immersing myself in these educational podcasts and listening to what's going on. I have taken many, many different photographs as I'm driving of screenshots of these presentations as to what plants they're planting to do the different operations that they're doing. So about a week ago, or a week and a half ago, Timmy Cornpicker, lives only a few miles away, went to school with him, he's a couple years younger than me. He comes up and he says, hey, there's a guy, and he's got this book, and it's the Understanding Cover Crops Benefits and Selection. And I'm not going to use that name there. I'm just going to do that because I just don't want too many things getting out there before I actually start doing this. And when I do start doing this, I will give you in full disclosure what I am doing. But right now, not happening. And you could probably see what the name of that company was. So in here, in these different in this book, it tells you cover crop mixes in no-till farming to build soil health and bring nutrients, necessary nutrients from deep, bring them up, stabilize your pHs to cut your costs. And that is my whole goal. Okay, cutting costs. How do I cut costs? Well, no-till farming. Well, I've done that before. It's not a problem. Go a little slower so that it cuts through. You may have to have your corn planter and grain drill completely rebuilt, which I'm doing. Going to do that, and it's going to cost, instead of buying fertilizers in the fall and burning diesel fuel to chisel plow down residue and running steel over the ground to size residue, I will just be no-tilling a cover crop in, which will be rye or wheat. Wheat after beans, rye after corn. After corn, the rye, plant soybeans through the standing rye at bloom stage. It'll roll down just fine with a column mulcher, which I already have one. I will plant through and then roll over that. Yes, it is going to take a little bit of diesel fuel to run that roller, but so what? At a half a gallon to the acre, running a very small tractor, maybe I'll put Timothy on the old John Deere 720 diesel, and he can put his ass around that field, rolling it down, and those things burn like a half a gallon a day. Those things are super duper efficient and reliable. So that's what I'm probably going to do. And Tim can enjoy himself out there running that old diesel tractor with an umbrella over his head. Probably not. We'll use the 4230, which is a close second. Yeah, so that's where we're going with this thing. And after the wheat comes off, that is when we are going to put in a 7 to 12 species cover crop. I have not 100% decided exactly what I'm going to put in, but I know it's going to involve sunflowers. There will be no harvest of the cover crop. That is strictly to break down. It'll be tillage radish, sunflowers, sun hemp, and a bunch of other different legumes. 3 different legumes, because the following year after this cover crop comes off, that ground will go into corn. If I put soybeans after the wheat, I will just drill rye in the fall after the wheat. That's it. Or something like pearl millet and rye, or pearl millet, tillage radish, rye. Do that so that in the spring, the tillage radish and the millet are dead and gone. The rye will continue to grow. I will always have a living root in the ground, and then I will no-till drill soybeans back into that. And the reason I will do that is because I have a couple of property owners that are just dead set against corn. And I don't know why, but they're dead set against corn. So I will not be cutting out NPK. That's not what I'm going to be doing. But I will be I will be using compost from the mushroom growers. That compost from the mushroom growers will supply enough P and K to my soil to grow corn and soybeans and wheat without any issues. It will be there. And that will get me ahead on the regenerative side of it, because this regenerative side of it is putting organic matter back into the roots, into the soil, feeding the underground biologics, all of that stuff. Because if you're with commercial fertilizers, you're not feeding anything but the crop you're growing, and your soil dies. That's just a fact. Anybody that has corn residue that is so thick that they need row cleaners to push it aside for the last 3 or 4, 5, 6 seasons of growing corn and soybeans, and you can't get through the residue. You want that residue gone because your residue is keeping the soil cold and wet. You have dead soil. Because I don't care if you're in the far north or in the far south. If you've got this residue, and everywhere in between, if you got all this residue that you're complaining about, and you need a machine like a vertical tillage machine to actually go through there, you're on your way to putting organic matter in your soil. But when you go back through with, say, anhydrous, You kill everything. You kill fungus. You kill every living thing, from the worms to the fungus to the microbial activity. If you do not believe me, you need to do some research. Anhydrous ammonia is the most devastating product to put in your soil. If you've ever noticed where anhydrous has been put in clay-based soils, it turns to brick, adobe bricks. You have residue, you have clay, and now you have killed all organic matter, and the sun is baking that at 150 degrees in the peak of summer into adobe bricks, and you need to till. You need to break that cycle, but that's up to you. I don't really care what you do. If you are on the IV from the fertilizer plant where you put anhydrous down, you put 150 to 200 units of phosphate and 100 to 120 units of potash just to make a corn crop grow, you are spending a lot of money. Oh yeah, by the way, your pHs continue to decline, so you need to put 50, 60, 80, $100 an acre in lime every other year. Depending on where you're at and what you're doing, some places in this country have high calcium, high lime soils where they actually benefit from reducing that pH, but that's few and far between, but it is there. Regenerative agriculture will balance all this stuff out if you do it correctly. Now, I am no master at this. I do know the concept. I do know what I want to accomplish, and accomplishing a balance in my soil where my crop may not be yielding 250 bushels, but it might yield 180. Okay? That's great. There's a lot of guys that are saying 180 bushels, you're going to go broke in a hurry doing that. Well, if I can cut, what do I have? I got this beautiful board, like a dry erase board, and I could just show you this very simply. So cover crops are going to cost you somewhere around $20, $25 an acre to put them in the ground, right? So there's a lot of people like, oh my God, that's a lot of money to put on the ground. Well, it is and it isn't. When are you going to be able to plant this? Like soybeans. Soybeans, you're going to wait until that rye, and rye is your friend. That will that'll till your soil, believe it or not. It will loosen, it will feed the fungus, it will feed the bacteria. There's a lot of sugars and stuff that come through rye, and they put down a really deep taproot, which can go 12, 14, 16 inches deep, pull up nutrients from below, and then when you lay it over, the microbes that are still alive in the soil will continue to break those down over the season, feeding your soybeans. Nitrogen is fed, or rye feeds off of nitrogen. It pulls it out of the soil, stores it there, which will promote your microbial activity. Why you put soybeans into rye is because it pulls nitrogen out of the soil, triggering that soybean plant to put on nodules. The more nodules, the more nodes, the more nodes, the more pods, the more pods, the more beans, the more beans, the more yield you get, even though we don't really talk about yield in a regenerative process. I'll tell you why, because it doesn't matter what you get here. I mean, it does to a point, but it really doesn't. If there's a yield reduction from a field that you have put $500 worth of fertilizer on to get 220 bushels of corn, and all of a sudden you're at 180 bushels, there goes your profit. Well, you've cut your fuel price, you've cut your inputs on phosphate and potassium down to, say, $150 per acre. So you take $150, you've made, $250, well, $500, $400, $350. You got $350 to play with there. So, yeah, $350 that you wouldn't have if your break-even was 170 bushel, right? Your break-even is 170 bushel, and are you going to get 220? You still have to till it. You still have to plow it. You still have to run your till, your all this stuff over top of it, and then you're dealing with residue because your microbes are dead. Your ground is dead. Your soil is dead. So, anyway, there are things that I will never ever use again. I used a product called N-Stay. Nitrogen stabilizer was a microbicide. First year was great. Second year was what the fuck happened. Third year, why is my hay not growing? And you know what the chemical company told me was? Well, you've put too much on. Well, no, I didn't. I put this prescribed amount on. Well, you put too much on. It's killed your microbes. Well, when you don't have beneficial fungus and your ecosystem below your feet isn't functioning properly and you kill those microbes, you kill the ability for that nitrogen and other things to break down and become available to the plant. All right, so here's another thing, and we're 40 minutes into this. I hope you're still here and following me on this. When you take a soil test from your fertilizer plant, and I am so disgusted right now with my soil tests, I was like, what have I been doing for the last few years on these farms? Where soil tests I took 5 years ago, soil tests I took 2 years ago, soil tests I took a year ago, and soil tests I took a month and a half ago. They have not changed dramatically in any way. And I have done everything that the fertilizer plant has said to do. Like, you need lime. Okay, I'm putting gypsum and 300 pounds of lime through my compost to the acre. I'm doing okay there. Should raise the pH, but it's not. It's stabilized the pH at a low pH number, but I'm still doing phenomenal with the crops. Why is that? You know, it's like, man, I should be having crap. Well, some of the herbicides don't work very well in low pH soils. Most all of them don't work well, except for contact herbicides like Roundup and Gramoxone. They work no matter what. So I'm like, what is going on here? I even sent a sample, and this is what really triggered this response from me about a month and a half ago, was when I sent my soil test out, and I sent a sample of compost out. And I get my compost sample back. It cost me $60 for this sample, and it didn't tell me anything. It just said soluble salts, organic matter, blah, blah, blah. I had no NPK, zinc, sulfur, copper. I had none of this stuff. Nothing was being listed as a percentage throughout this soil test. And I was like, hey, this didn't do me any good. I need the percentages of what is in it. And the text back was, oh, yeah, well, they still have that. Let me get back to it and get the actual content of this stuff. So, boom, I get it. In percentages, I'm like, wow, convert my percentages to parts per million to pounds to the acre to how much I need to grow a crop of corn and soybeans. And why is this not available to me in the soil, even though I've been putting it on for 4 years? Right? 4 years of compost on some of this ground, and I'm not showing anything that excites me. So I'm going to go back to David Brant and a couple of others. Another guy by the name of Doug and another guy by the name of Steven that I've been listening to. I like David Brant the best. David Brant has been doing this before any of these college grad guys have jumped on the bandwagon and said, this is how it's got to be done. I'm going to go with the guy that's been doing it for 50 freaking years, right? That's my guy. The guy that's done it for 50 years and has figured it out on his own. Yes, he did it the hard way because he didn't have anybody helping him out, and he is doing the best. His model is what I want to do. That's it. Hybrid. I'm not giving up herbicides. I'm not giving up commercial fertilizers. I'm just going to reduce them from this stupid number to a manageable number so that this in between puts my kid through college and I get to save money. And when I turn 70 years old, 65, 70 years old, I say, you know what, I got enough. I'm going to retire and I will turn it over to my children. And that's how I want it to be. At this current rate, I am like a dog running to the end of my chain. You know, when we buy tractors and tillage equipment, that's an investment, right? Well, you have to have a return on your investment. Well, when you pay $300,000 for something, and every year that $300,000 turns into nothing at the end of its life, or very reduced, your investment should be in your soil. Yes, the tractor you can buy for $300,000, and yes, it might sell for $100,000 in 10 years, but the rate of return on that is not in that piece of equipment, it's in what you're doing in your soil. And that is why I like David Brant, and I think he's done a wonderful job in conveying what he has done without influence from anybody else other than he says, you know what, I don't care what you do on your farm, and I don't care what you do on your farm. I only care about what I do on my farm. If you don't like what I do on my farm, it's okay. I will do what I do because I know that my input costs are here. My yield may not be here. It's going to be here. But everything in between is money. That's the whole name of the game, right? To produce enough money to pay your bills and save money so when you get too old to do this, you can turn it over to your children. And they can do it. And their children can do it. And pass it on. And pass on the knowledge that we pass down on growing a crop for profit, not for fun. Growing crops for fun is over for me. I love farming. I love it. I love being able to stick a seed in the ground and watch it grow and nurture it. I just don't like the problems that are caused by people that only have your profit in mind, your profit in their pocket. They don't want you to profit. They want you to put this stuff on the ground. Okay, insecticides. What do insecticides do? They kill everything. They kill all insect life out there, right? Kills it all. Doesn't matter whether it's honeybees or stink bugs. It kills it all. You know, fungicides kill all fungus. We don't need that white mold, so we're going to spray this fungus. Well, you kill your rhizobum, you kill all the fungus that's in the soil. You kill it all. Well, what feeds on the fungus? Well, your microbes. Your microbes feed on that fungus. When your funguses die, your microbes starve, and then they die. And that is the slippery slope that we all do when we run the commercial program where you have to apply fungicides 3 times in a year and you have to apply insecticides, you know, when you see this little bug. Well, has anybody thought about the beneficial insects that are getting killed? And from what I've listened to and read about now is that for every bad bug, there's 1,700 good bugs that benefit you or don't do anything negative or positive. They're inert. They're there. They carry pollen. Spiders. You kill your spiders, you're not catching butterflies. You're not catching moths. You're not catching anything. Slugs. Slugs just thrive in organic matter, right? Well, there's different types of plants that you can plant, and tillage radish is one of them that slugs love to eat, but it kills them. It's like an alcoholic. Oh, you love that alcohol. Eventually, it's going to kill you. And when tillage radishes die, it's going to smell like propane because that's the smell that they use in propane. But that's sulfur. Sulfur that we don't get in the air anymore. What are you doing? Hey, you killing stink bugs? Yeah. Yeah, well, give me that. Put that thing back. Right now. Okay. Anyway. You just have to really, and not everybody wants to do this. I don't really want to do it, but I want to do it because I know it works, because we've done it inadvertently in the past. And I want to have money at the end of the year instead of looking at that fertilizer bill that I haven't been able to pay for the last 8, 9, 10 months because, well, I've got a fertilizer bill that needs to be paid, but if I can cut that thing down and the profit side goes up, even though the yield comes down, I'm okay with a low. I don't care if I make 125 bushels to the acre as long as my break even is 50, right? Then I got 75 bushels of corn to sell that has nothing attached to it. I don't want to plant a crop of corn that might potentially yield me 200 bushels, but I got 160 bushel break even. So there you are at like 40 bushels that you may not get. And if you've ever noticed that when a seed salesman comes in and he says, here's the latest and the greatest variety, and if you plant this, you will have this, that, and the other thing, but you have to put this many pounds of this and that many pounds of that and the other pounds of the other thing, and then you get a cold week at emergence. And all of a sudden you have lost 10, 15 bushels off the top of that yield. Or you get 2 weeks of rain and you lose 3 or 4 more bushels to the acre. We have a volcanic eruption, which isn't a bad thing, but it isn't a good thing for corn because we're not getting the temperature that we need to grow that crop. So all of these variables and all this stuff, you your inputs and your break even at 160 bushels could be that you only maybe get 2 bushels that you can worth of profit that you can put in your pocket. Honest to Pete. Think about that. So if you cut a lot of these things out and you can make the soil that has all these nutrients in it feed your plants. Now here's the funny thing, and I was alluding to this earlier. If you take your soil samples down to the lab or whoever, and they pull a test, and it comes back and you're like, well, Jesus, I've got residue from 3 years ago, and, you know, it's still breaking down, and isn't that going back into my soil? Isn't that going back into the plants that I'm planting this year? Or you've got a living cover or whatever, and you kill it, and for some reason you pull that test and there's nothing there, and you have to go down and you're still buying 600 pounds of 12-24-24 with sulfur, or, you know, 11, 22, 5, 22, 5 for sulfur, you know, and you're trying to raise your sulfur levels, but it's not raising anything. Your pH is like not moving either way, but it's okay. Put more lime on. You get more benefit out of the lime. Well, why are you getting more benefit out of your lime? If you lime, you're getting more benefit out of your lime is because when you get to 6.3, 6.2, your microbial activity declines dramatically. And I'm telling you, dramatically. If you get down into 5.5, your soil's dead. You got to start over. You might have weed, might have worms or whatnot. So you pull these soil tests and you're like, okay, so you open it up and you're like, Jesus Christ, I put 600 pounds of 12-24-24 and it looks like I got to put another 600 pounds, but I only took grain off. The fodder and everything is all still there. Where in the hell did this stuff go? Well, your soil test is not testing for organic nutrients. It's only testing for inorganic nutrients. They take the organics out. They're not there. It's gone. You're only getting tested for inorganic nutrients. Well, you put 620 pounds of NPK or P&K and zinc and whatever, sulfur down, and the plant didn't dissipate into the atmosphere. Nitrogen does, but PK, zinc, and sulfur don't. Where in the hell is it? Well, I'm going to tell you where it's at. All that residue and all that stuff that's laying on top of the ground that you're trying to get rid of, that is organic. And that organic stuff is tied, all of that nutrient that you put on the air before, not all of it, but about 2/3 of it are locked up in that, and it won't be released into your new crop if you don't have the microbial activity to break it down, turn it into organic matter, and release it back into the plants. And that's where the real term of regenerative farming comes from. It is from the growing, the rotting, the conversion, and then the growing again. When you take grain off, just say you had 200 bushels to the acre corn, you take about 65 pounds of potash off, or 65 pounds of phosphate off, okay? So you guys that are down in the Delmarva, you're complaining that your phosphate levels are too high, but your plants don't seem to pick them up, you need to convert that type of phosphate to an available type of phosphate. You can do that with different plant species in the fall, especially on the Delmarva. Buckwheat. Buckwheat's funny. You put buckwheat in probably on the Delmarva in about 2 weeks. You put that on. Are you okay?
Okay.
All right. So you can put that in 45 days. You can just plant through that buckwheat. Buckwheat has a very short root mass, but it converts phosphate to inorganic phosphate to organic phosphate, which is then available to your corn, and you can pull that out of there. So 65 pounds of phosphate can be removed just in 200 bushel corn. If it is available, you don't need to put any more on. You can put more poultry litter and then grow other crops. There's a whole bunch of other crops in there that do phosphate conversion very efficiently. Buckwheat is one of them. That's just one of the things that I knew about. We grew buckwheat years ago. I'm probably going to be putting buckwheat in after my wheat comes off too, just as a blend, just to see where it goes to convert phosphates, so I don't have to buy that extra 20 pound of phosphate. We don't really have a phosphate deficiency here, but it's an unavailable phosphate, so it needs to become available. Yeah, so there you go. And what else was I going to say? Oh, your calcium levels. Well, when you put that calcium on and the plants use it and it's just down there and it gets down to the subsoil, because it does work its way through the soil. You have to have different types of plants that go deep to pull it back up, and it will stabilize your pHs. So I'm hauling all this lime, and I am intending to put the lime on every acre that I farm. All of it. 4,000, almost 4,000 acres of ground need to have lime on it. Even if it's just a ton. That's 4,000 tons. That's a lot of shit. But on the corn and the soybeans, I'm going to put 1.5 tons on my corn ground, 2 tons on the beans. Beans need more calcium, just so you know. They just do. How did you break that? You broke my pen. So anyway, will you knock it off? Yeah, there's just a lot of information that's out there, and you can do this efficiently. I will be 100% no-till this year, except for where I made the ruts and where I ran the ripper. This ripper that I bought, I love it. I think it works great. Basically, what it does is it creates a false aggregate in your soil, basically fractures the soil, allows nutrients and oxygen into the soil, which entices the microbial activity, not the fungus, but the microbial activity. And I'm going to put that lime on there, and it's going to work its way down. Where I rip, I will be putting 2.5 tons to the acre, because I want that to work its way down. And lime makes things slippery. It allows nutrition to slip off the clay particles to be picked up by the roots of the covers and the growing crop, the cash crop that I will be growing. So we got all this stuff going on. That is what I'm doing. When you see me doing weird stuff like running with sunflowers and sun hemp and tillage radish, and it looks like a weed patch in December, it never got dealt with, I may go through with a roller harrow and roll it down. Maybe. Not sure what I'm going to have there, but we're going to figure that out, and we are going to go down that path together, and I will be very vocal, and I will show everybody what I'm doing, just because I think it is a way forward to make farmers money. And if you are in a position where you have an open mind and you want to try it on like 50 acres, 20 acres, try it on one farm. See what happens in that one farm. I would own the farm that I would be doing it on. I've already talked to my property owners about this, and they're like, "Yeah, cool. You mean you're going to be doing like green farming?" Yes, green farming. I'm going to farm like people want you to farm, with cover crops. Even though it's going to look ugly at times, it is going to be beneficial to everyone. Test weights will climb. Quality, food quality, the grain quality will climb. With improved grain quality, improved premiums. I know that Purina used to buy anything that was over 60-pound test weight in corn, and they would pay a premium of 20 or 30 cents. It was pretty good. So I'll be contacting them after a couple of years of doing this, and we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. So anyways, 58 minutes, 25 seconds of me yammering on about regenerative agriculture, fighting with my little boy here because, here's the devil. What was that? Did I just zap you?
Yes.
Oh, what was it?
Banana.
Oh, banana parts. Anyway, yeah. Hope you enjoyed this. You're going to see grain drill rebuilds. You're going to see corn planter stuff being done. There's a lot of things I need to do to my corn planter. I was purchasing another corn planter to turn it into a twin row corn planter, but I've run out of time and money. I just had to spend $246,000, and that takes all the profit out of the year. Really does. So next year this time, maybe I'll have $246,000 that I don't have to spend because I don't want to. Plus Plus, I'm going to still be doing around 3,000 acres of hay, just so y'all know. 3,000 acres of hay will still be getting baled. But anyway, have a nice night, day, afternoon, whenever you see this. Sure did enjoy making this video.